My name is Brad Haber. I was born in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I lived there till I was 13 years old. And that was an interesting place to grow up as a kid. There was a lot of outdoor activities there, playing baseball and doing stuff in the desert, catching lizards and stuff. It was actually a fun place to grow up. A couple of our best friends there were Catholic, and a couple times we went to services at their church. And I remember being told that we could not go up when they were doing their communion. We just had to stay in the pew. And so that kind of, I guess, was maybe a seed planted into, okay, well, you know, why is this exclusionary in this case, I guess. And my family itself would go to church, not necessarily on a regular basis, and we tended to go to different churches. It wasn't always necessarily the same church. Several times before we moved out of Las Vegas permanently, we moved to California for maybe a 1-year period of time. And again, there we would go to a different church, not necessarily always the same church, every Sunday. And so in 1973, when I was 13, my family moved to San Diego permanently. And San Diego is a great place. It's a beautiful city, a great place to be, perfect weather, really nice. And again, there we, as far as churches and stuff, it would be intermittent, ongoing, and not necessarily the same church every week. One week it would be the one that was closest to the house, and then another time it would be some other one that's a few miles away. Different branches of Christianity also. And so I guess maybe that was the family itself maybe searching for what's the right way to worship Allah, because apparently the family was not able to find something that met that need for them. And so I kind of grew up in that type of atmosphere where I believed in God, but as far as a real commitment towards a church, a particular church, I did not necessarily feel a strong commitment towards a particular one. Later in my life, I became a United Methodist, and I felt actually a connection there. I enjoyed the church. I felt at home with it. I really liked it. But still, even then, I still had some nagging questions or doubts that just kind of laid dormant. They were there, but I just kind of accepted on faith that okay, that's just something I just don't understand. And then I ended up joining the Navy, and I served for 20 years in the Navy. And in the Navy, you're branded either a Catholic or a Protestant or some other religion. So I was a Protestant and would attend services on board the ship on Sunday. Every Sunday the ship would have services. I'd go to those services. But again, I still kind of just was more going through the motions, didn't really have a strong connection or understanding. I've read the Bible many times, but still always had these nagging questions and stuff. I had quite I think, extensive exposure to religion, except for Islam. That was about the only religion that I was not personally exposed to. Any exposure I had to Islam was through the media. So that was what the extent of my Islamic knowledge at that point. So I had served for the 20 years and retired from the Navy, and then it was shortly after that. Actually, it was I retired right a year before the 9/11 event, and that just kind of further solidified my personal understanding of what Islam was, and it was not good, of course. And it just continued on with that, very, very negative impression of Islam. And so then the London bus bombings happened, 7/7. And once again, you would hear, okay, this is what Islam is not about. But then on the other hand, you had heard that an Islamic group was claiming credit for it. And so this was similar. This happened after 9/11 also. But this time I don't know, I told myself that I needed to find out what Islam was about for myself, because I had this built-up conception or perception of what Islam was, and it was a really high brick wall of with a lot of negative things about what Islam was. So I said I need to find out what Islam is about for myself, and I went to Barnes and Noble and I bought a Quran, and I fully expected that I would validate all of the negative impressions that I had on Islam. I had it turned out to be quite different, of course. But so I bought the Quran, and I would drive to work in the morning. At this point, I had been retired from the Navy. I would drive to work, and I would open it up, and I would read some for maybe 10 minutes or so before going into work. And I read, of course, Surah Fatiha. And what an amazing surah that was. And it right away kind of put me at ease. It felt very comfortable. It felt familiar. And it was non-threatening. And it was like, okay, this is okay, and boom, the first few bricks of ignorance, I guess you can call them, were removed. And so I would do that for several days. Then it got to be where I would go there in the car at lunchtime and start reading the Quran. And of course, there was many parts of it that I didn't understand, but some ayats I did understand. I thought they were very clear. And what I found, though, even on the ones that I didn't understand, I found a recurring theme of forgiveness, of Allah's mercy. And so, that just really started wiping away all these misconceptions that I had about Islam. It was like, well, okay, here it's mercy, it's mercy, it's mercy, it's mercy. There's mercy everywhere in there. And some parts of it I really liked, the part about Isa alayhi salam, and it was like, hey, this answers one of my questions, because I could not understand as a Christian. It's like, how is it that Allah, being the one, the most powerful, how is it that Allah can only forgive man by letting man kill his son? I was like, surely Allah doesn't need to allow violence to happen to Isa alayhi salam to gain forgiveness. So that never made any sense to me when I was a Christian. And so when I read that in the Quran, I was like, aha, okay, this is starting to make sense now. And it's a lot more logical. And so I continued reading, and more bricks, as I call them, would go away. Ayat al-Kursi is a wonderful, very powerful, it's not a whole surah, but ayats, I guess you can call it. Very, very wonderful, very powerful. So there was a lot of the ayats, like I had said, that made sense to me, that just seemed to be illogical, and it answered questions that I had a long time about from when I was a Christian, and so it was really wonderful. At this time, I was kind of just doing this on my own research. I was not expecting to become a Muslim or anything. I was, like I mentioned, I was expecting to validate my anger towards Islam. But I didn't tell my family that I was doing this. I just left the Quran on the front seat of my car, in case anybody noticed it, then they would do something. But nobody ever said anything. So I just continued to do this all on my own. After I finished reading the Quran, San Diego State University, the MSA there held a series of lectures on the prophets. And I went to those and again felt at ease that, okay, Islam is recognizing the same prophets that Christianity recognized, and they were honored in there. So again, there was nothing threatening about that at all. It felt very, like I said, very comfortable. Also along the line, I did some internet searches. And I found that if you're doing an internet search, you have to be careful of what you search for. You need to ask more broad questions like who is or who was type of questions instead of are type of questions, because then I found that you get much better results in those type of searches. And so I found some Islamic center that was close to my work, and I would try to go there. And many times it was locked up. Usually there was nobody there, but I just kept going. And Shukranallah, one time it was finally open. There was two brothers there. They opened the door, let me in. One guy spoke English, and he told me, I asked if they had a library, and he told me, sure, and go up to the library, led me up to the library, and he said, you can take whatever book you'd like. And there were, I believe, 3 books in English, so I took all 3 of those books. The others were, I don't know, Arabic or Farsi, or I'm not sure, but so I took the 3 English books they had. And so I remember 2 of them. One was about jinn, and that was the first one I read. That was very, very interesting. And the second one I read was about Karbala, about Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And I don't know how it's possible to read or learn about Karbala and not be affected by it. And reading about Imam Hussein alayhi salam and what happened at Karbala, it sealed the deal with me. It was like, this is true worship. This was very selfless act. It happened as a tragedy. It happened. It was also a victory. So I was a little torn on that. It's a tragedy, but I think it's also a tremendous victory for Islam. And so at that point, I said, okay, I know I'm going to become a Muslim. So we're at the Beit Ulam Center, and my first exposure to the Beit Ulam Center was when I moved to Chicago. My brother-in-law brought me here. And like I had mentioned with my experience in Seattle where it was English, it was really nice that the programs here are in English. So I'm able to gain more knowledge about the Ahl Bayt and how I'm supposed to live my life as a Muslim through the Qubas here, coming here for Muharram, coming here for Ramadan, coming here for Majalis. It's really, really beneficial to have the programs in English. And I've made friends here. Like I mentioned earlier, there's several families that live very close to where I live, where my home is. So it's really nice. I feel like I can really be a part here. This has really benefited me more than just being in English. Maulana Suleiman Abadi has gone over Sahifa Sajada with me, explained, given me a lot of insight into the lessons about how we are supposed to pray to Allah, how we're supposed to ask Allah for help through those du'as. Also, this center has given me an opportunity to learn Arabic on Sundays. Take Arabic lessons with another one of the member here and a couple other people, and inshallah one day my Arabic will be good. I'm trying. So this center has really been beneficial about meeting and interacting with members of the community, about growing in my faith through the program being in English here so I can understand what's going on, and just through the other services that they offer. The fellowship is fantastic. This is a very, very nice center. I'm very, very thankful to be here and have this opportunity to be a part of this community here. Then I went home and broke the news to my wife, and she was not thrilled at all. So that's why I say, in hindsight, maybe I should have done it a little bit differently. But again, I wasn't expecting this to happen. I wasn't expecting that reading the Quran and learning about Al-mostabserin-The would lead me to Islam. I had expected the exact opposite to happen. So anyway, when I told my wife, and she became extremely upset. It was not a pleasant situation. Over time, we'd been married for 22 years at this point. Actually, I got her to go to the mosque one time with me, her and my daughter, and they didn't care for that at all. They didn't like wearing the hijab. They were asking me, how can you understand even what's being said? Why are you here? You don't have no idea what they're saying. You're in a cult. How can you be doing this type of thing? And so our relationship started, tension started growing in our relationship. It got to a point where we went to a marriage counselor. My wife at the time chose the marriage counselor. And alhamdulillah, when we went, again, I was expecting, okay, I'm going to be under fire here. But the counselor asked us to tell our stories. So my wife told her side, I told my side. The counselor told my wife that she was being very defensive and that she should try and open up a little bit and try and understand what was happening with me and why I had turned to Islam. That really surprised me also, shukran. So my wife didn't really take that advice. She didn't go with that. Her father-in-law, we had been super good friends. We were very good buddies. He started sending me anti-Islamic email the very next day after I had converted. The family did all kinds of strange things that kind of silly when you think about. Very, I don't know, I'd call them childish maybe. And so we stayed that way for 3 years until my wife, she had given me an ultimatum saying, come back to Christianity by this date or else. Obviously that day came and went, and nothing was going to remove me from my faith and my belief in Islam. And so we ended up getting a divorce. And I had met a brother at the center, Brother Idris, and after a divorce, he told me about this website where I can maybe meet somebody, and so I put up a profile on the website. It's shiamatch.com, and that led to the marriage I'm currently in, and shukran, I have a wonderful wife now. Very, very happy with her, and we have three wonderful daughters, and very happy. It's been I miss my son and my daughter. I miss them very much, and wish I had a closer relationship to them than I do. I'm open and really want to be with them. But shukran, Allah has also given me these 3 daughters from my wife, and they're incredible, and I think we make an awesome family. I'm very happy. So I completed 20 years of service in the Navy and retired in San Diego, California, and I started a job for Cypress Semiconductor there, and I was there for perhaps 8 years working in San Diego when one day they came down to the office and laid off a lot of people, and they made myself and 3 other guys move to the Seattle office. And I thought Seattle was nice. It was okay, cold, cloudy, very different than San Diego. But it was a beautiful country. I liked it. It turns out my wife didn't care for it a whole lot. So as kind of a dare, or I don't know, dare or a challenge, I said, get a job in Chicago and we'll move to Chicago. She has a lot of family here in Chicago, so that's why I mentioned Chicago. And she called my bluff 2 weeks later. She had a job here in Chicago, so we packed up. I gave my notice at Cyprus, and they were incredibly good to me. They told me that I could continue with Cyprus. I could work from my home here in Chicago. What a blessing that was, because the job market wasn't the greatest at that time. So that was very, very fortunate for me. And so then we moved here to Chicago, and it's just been one great blessing after another here. It's been a challenge for the winters for me. I thought I might die that first winter. We had a blizzard. I'd never seen a blizzard before, much less experienced anything like that. And I got a new definition of what snow is. A funny story, on the first day on the job in Seattle, I came outside to the car, and there was this little dusting of snow on the car. And that was the first place I'd lived where it actually snowed. So I went back inside and called up work, said, hey, do we have to come to work today because it's snowing? And of course I just chuckled and said, of course. And so I really found out what snow is once I moved here to Chicago. And it turns out I really like it here. It's been a great move for me. Shukran Allah that this happened. I've really enjoy the city. Has a lot of culture, a lot of experience. And one thing that's really good is the community here seems to be larger than the Seattle community. And so it's kind of nice that I get exposure to different centers. And we seem to get more speakers here. But I must give one thanks to the center in Seattle. It was the Zainab Center. And when I moved there, that was the first center that I went to where English was actually used. And, it was like, shukran Allah. It was like I can understand what's being said and what's happening. The announcements were in English. It was wonderful. I fell in love with the center. Some great people there. And so it was nice to come here and find that continued also, that I can go to centers here with English speaking so I can understand what's going on. I kind of felt like in Seattle my learning actually was slower, simply because I didn't get the benefit of hearing what was the khutbahs, learning the lessons, the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt. Couldn't understand what was going on, so it was really nice to go to Seattle and hear the English, and then have that continue here to have English also. So again, Chicago's been a blessing in many ways in that way. So, in Seattle again, while the center did speak in English, we didn't really have neighbors that were from the community near me. Here in Chicago, in my neighborhood, there are several families, and it's really nice. What's really cool is one of my friend's father started what's called a Taqwa circle, and we will get together on Sundays, and it's about maybe 6 families, and we take turns studying some ayats of the Quran, and then we present them to the group. We look for the tasfir of the Quran of those ayats, and then we present our findings, what we understand them to be, to the group, and then it's followed by a question and answer session. So that's been tremendous help. It's been really nice to have that, and it's nice just to have friends so close in the neighborhood to invite them over and enjoy company that way. It's been really nice. Great neighbors, super good people, very nice. Okay, Ziyarat is absolutely the most rewarding experience of my life. I was very nervous about going on Ziyarat. Here I'm American. We'd invaded Iraq. I was a little bit nervous about going. Am I going to get kidnapped or shot or whatever? I was very nervous. But Mona Suleiman at the center, one Sunday told me, that's not a reason to not go. You're in the care of the imams when you go on the ziyarat. So last year, the family, the 5 of us, we went to Iraq, and I have to tell you, that was, if you have not gone on the ziyarat, you need to go on a ziyarat. It's an incredible experience. We started in Najaf, and we were there for the 15th Shaban, and I had some experiences there that I don't know. I can't explain, other than I can tell you that there's a living presence there. I had an experience that I can't really adequately describe, and I don't know who could help me understand those experiences, because I don't know if you could interpret it unless you've actually experienced it. But this happened to me. I had this experience. It was like I don't know, like my body was like was electrified or something. And Najaf, it started from inside me, and it slowly built outside, and it was like being electrified. And then it happened also in Karbala, at the Imam Hussein alayhi salam shrine, and that one was a little bit different. That one, like every molecule of my body, when I looked at the rose, it was just like overcome with this sadness. And then when I went to where he had camped, that experience also happened again, where it was like kind of a brief, I don't know, I would call it electrifying type of experience. I can't adequately describe it. It happened there. It happened at Kazimain also, and we went to Masjid Saleh, and there's a corner there where the Imam of our time is going to be living. I believe, as tradition says, is where he will be living when he returns. And when I first entered that, I had this experience again. I stayed in there, and you know what? That was what's really amazing about it. You think about this, think about our imams, and think about their stature, and then you look at where they were going to be living. We saw Imam Ali alayhi salam house where it had been rebuilt, so modest, and look at the stature of this person. Same thing at Masjid Saleh. You go look at the living quarters, and it's so basic. I mean, and when you consider the stature of this person, they should have, you would think they'd have the grandest palace that you could imagine. But very humble, very humble. And so also when I left there, it happened again. So it happened, I had this experience twice at Masjid Saleh. So there is no doubt that this is it's a living place. There's a living presence at these places, and it's so well worth the visit. I feel like I have a living, interactive relationship with the Ahl Bayt. And that was just one example of it. But even before the ziyarat, I knew that I could count and ask for help. The Prophet, peace be upon him, he would call Ya Ali when he needed help. This is one example that happened to me. At work, it was shortly after I had started this job. They were having a problem with the production with this one device. It was failing, and so they asked me if I could take a look at it. So I was pretty nervous, but I had some USB experience, and they asked me to take a look at this. So I opened up the register, or the data sheet for this controller, and I said, oh, perhaps this register isn't set correctly. So I opened up the code, and I just typed in the register and the value that I think it should be set for. And I compiled the code, loaded it, and shukran Allah, it worked. And so I said, okay. But before I did this, I followed the sunnah of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and I said, Ya Al-mostabserin-The. And so I did this, compiled the code, loaded in, and shukran Allah, it worked. I was like, wonderful, thank you, shukran Allah, thank you, thank you. Now here's what was amazing about this. And so I looked at where I had done this, and it was a completely different register name than what I thought I had typed. Completely, not even close. And how did that happen? That was amazing. And I've had some other experiences like that. So our relationship with Al-Bayt is a living, interactive relationship.